Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to People Always Ask, coming to you live on Queen Blueprint TV. And today we have a special guest with us, Queen Candace, money management specialist, and who is owner of Queen Blueprint. And so she is here to talk to us today a little bit about how to manage financial anxiety. I know we all got it. It makes us all worry that we're going to end up broke after the pandemic. So we're going to talk about it right here in case money has ever stressed you out with Miss Queen Candace. Welcome her, folks. Hey, Candace.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super excited to talk to you about today's topic because I talk to people about money more than I'd like because this is America. So we all get a little bit stressed sometimes about money, stimulus checks, and all sorts of unemployment benefits and paying off student debt and all of the things. So, we need you. We need you.
Yes.
Have people been coming to you going crazy in the middle of all this pandemic?
Of course. So like the really big thing, of course, is the stimulus checks. Like, when am I going to get it? Am I going to get it? Am I not going to get it? What's going on with that? But also just people concerned about their debt and not. So for some people, this is the first time either in a very long time that they've been in a lot of debt or the very first time. And so they start freaking out because they're like, I don't know how to handle this. What do I do? And so that's where most of the financial anxiety is coming from.
Let me ask you something, because I know a lot of people are stressed out about their student loans. Is there a difference between student loan debt and like credit card debt and stuff like that? Like in terms of how much you should be worried about it?
Yeah. So right now, I would say student loan debt, if you have federal student loans, should be the least of your worries right now. Like if you have student federal loans and you're worried about your cash flow, don't worry about those until September 31st. Okay, because we already got that one taken care of. That's done, right? But if you actually do have a decent amount of money left over after you've paid for all of your needs, right? Your shelter, your food, all that good stuff, all your bills and all your investments and stuff like that. You would want to create a strategy to pay down the debt because it'll go away faster, being that there is no interest rate going on right now. There's no interest accumulating. So on either a subsidized or unsubsidized, it's just across the board, federal student loans, you're not having any interest. So if you have enough money left over after, you pay for all your lifestyle things, definitely like start paying down on that debt, right? The only other issue is private loans. Those private student loans, you are getting no break on those. And those work just like a personal loan does.
Well, sorry about this, siren. I'm in the Heights. Well, anyway, so what I'm really curious about is I am from a family where we borrow against everything. We borrow against the car, borrow against the house, borrow against all the things. What does that lead to? Like, why is that a bad thing to do? Because I know it messed my family up, but I'm curious how is that? Why is that tempting? Why is it that people are doing that in the first place? And then how do they get you with that?
So robbing Peter to pay Paul just creates a deeper debt cycle, right? And so why a lot of people do it is because we're conditioned to just in the beginning when you first talk about credit and stuff like that, back in like the 90s and stuff, that's what they did, right? Like they didn't really know much about credit scores or anything like that. So they were just like, oh, you giving me free money. Cool. It's not free money though. And it's not your money. It's the bank's money. And so they want their money back, right? But when you do that, you create higher interest, right? Because you're paying not only for the principal payment, but you're also paying for the APR. So you never want to do that because when you create a bigger payment, now the interest rate is higher. And that's really what gets people is the interest rate.
I mean, it's tough because economically, people aren't put in the same position when it comes to getting loans. When you think about like I want money for my business, or I want money for like my house and my bills. What's your advice on, like, in terms of not setting myself up for chaos and disaster? What should you do first if you're really trying to make some money and save some money so that you can start something? Like, if you do need a loan eventually, how should you go about it?
So there's a lot of fundamental things that need to be in place, right? And the very first thing is your mindset, right? And so what we have here is the poor mindset battling with the wealth mindset, right? So poor mindset is very limiting. You only really think about what's happening in front of you. And the wealth mindset is like, I'm worried about the generations after me, right? And how I can build up whatever I can in this lifetime so that it spans more than 2 generations, right? And so really what you have to start doing is teaching yourself that money is abundant, right? So we start really freaking out because we think money is limited, but money is energy, right? And so when I started my debt payoff journey, when I started my entrepreneur journey, there are 3 phrases that I said to myself over and over and over again. And I still do to this day. Every time I make an investment, I say this to myself. My money is abundant. Money is energy. It flows to me effortlessly, right? And we also have to think about money doesn't only come in the physical sense, right? It can also come in opportunities. It can come in people. So when you are starting out your entrepreneur journey, you will first want to get someone who can assist you, right? The biggest issue with the Black community is we do not hire coaches, right? But if you want someone to invest in your business, shouldn't you invest in your business?
Now, I'm going to back you up a little bit because you said it twice, and I'm not sure I'm 100%. I don't know I 100% understand. You said money is energy. What do you mean by that?
I mean that it's ever flowing. It's all over, right? It's all encompassing, and really, like, it can come in every kind of variation, right? And so when you think of it that way, you start think of it less of, well, how much money did I physically get today? And you start thinking, well, how many relationships did I build today? How many people did I talk to today? How much marketing did I do today? Right? Because that then in turn brings the money back to you, right? So thinking of it outside of the physical sense makes you think of it in a wide array. And that's really what it is. It's a variety of things. Money is very multi-dimensional.
Well, when you first got out of high school and you were in the world making money, spending money, what was your mindset like? Because it must have shifted.
Absolutely. So when I got out of college, my money mindset was money is limited because again, I come from public assistance. I'm a public assistance baby, right? And actually all the way up until I want to say 2014 when I finally got a union job, I was on public assistance. And so when I was 18, I was like, man, it is what it is. Like, you only get how much money you can actually bring in and work for, right? So you have to be a workhorse in order to get it. You have to be in the rat race in order to get it. And that's the only way that you can get it. My mindset shifted when I was introduced by people who were entrepreneurs, right? And so they were just like, what do you mean? Like, you could go and purchase property and house hack. You can go and create a business and make money on your own and not have to worry about clocking in and clocking out. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I don't got to clock in and clock out. I don't have to actually adhere to whatever rules or whatever. And my time is not limited. Like, that's not a thing. They were like, no, it's not a thing.
Well, I mean, let's be clear for folks because I want people to understand you own a home right now.
I do.
You've paid off more than $50,000 worth of debt.
Yes.
And you're how old?
I'm 28.
So
49 in a couple of days.
which is more than most people in our generation can say by the time that they're 40. So this is like a really big there's a really big disconnect there in terms of what happened for you. When you think about what happened, do you think that's rare that people kind of run into that kind of entrepreneur who they can learn from, or what do you think the difference was?
I don't think it's rare. I think it's you are the sum of the 10 people that you associate with, right? So what really happened is that I started talking to people outside of the circles that I was running in originally, right? So we get really caught up on, well, I've had this friend for 10 years, 20 years. I've known them since I was 5 years old, but maybe that may be the person that you've outgrown and you're just holding on to them, but they can't come with you to the next level. And we get stuck because we get uncomfortable with going outside of what we already know. And that's what happened. So I started really hanging out with older people, right? And this is not even the good older people, not good or bad, but like they were still in the poor mindset, shifting towards the generational wealth mindset themselves, right? So they had a lot of money and they were like, well, what am I supposed to do with it? And we started to have those kinds of conversations. You don't really have those kinds of conversations with 25-year-olds because, it's just not something that they run into, is having to think about, what do I do with 100 grand? Right? So we started having those conversations and I'm like, well, why don't you buy a bill? Like we just started, Googling and saying, well, what do you do with $100,000? And those kinds of conversations really sparked the mindset shift and understanding that you can invest in things outside of stocks, because people always run to stocks first for investments. And I was like, I don't know about that. My risk tolerance is not over there because I might have a heart attack and die. But if I invest in properties, that's a little safer and my anxiety can handle it.
Yeah. Well, for those of you guys who don't know, I'm about to show you a little bit of a sponsor / big up to Queen Candace, because I want you to see some of what she's working on now and what even you could get connected with now. So let's take a look.
Whether it's tax season, the holidays, or whatever falls in between, you want to make sure that you're being smart with your money. So go visit my girl, Queen Candace, at the Queen Blueprint to learn how to gain your financial freedom. You could get a personalized debt payoff plan, a full financial overview, and learn to repair your relationship with money. Smarter money moves are waiting for you at www.thequeenblueprint.com or call 877-387-BLUE.
Ooh.
I love that commercial.
And so we're talking about
shout out to J Rose.
So yeah, one comment here saying property is best investment to add to your portfolio. So
yes,
big up on adding the properties. But I mean, it's interesting because I want to get into talking a little bit about what's been coming up in terms of money anxiety during the pandemic. Like, what are you noticing people stressing about? What are they telling themselves? Like, what's been coming up?
Yeah. So, really, what I want to talk a little bit about what financial anxiety, where it comes from.
Yeah.
Right. So financial anxiety really comes from lack of knowledge and fear of the unknown. Right. It's being unstable and not knowing where your income is coming from, not knowing where it's going. Right. And so the only way to combat that is to become financially literate, is to learn beyond just, oh, I need a budget. Like, yeah, you do. But what else? Like, do you know about life insurance? Do you know how to protect your assets? Do you know about all the different ways that you can make money, right? What is multiple streams of income, right?
Even as you're saying that, I'm getting anxiety because I feel like I don't know all the things to know. I don't. I know some, but I feel like I don't know enough. A part of me always felt resentment at the fact that it was so important for me to know how to work money and use money and understand credit and understand investments and debt, and that I really had no kind of knowledge at all, except for how to work. Like I knew how to do a job, And there's this thing that people refer to as schoolishness. It's like you take it with you into the world. Like you just are the way that you are in school for the rest of your life. You defer to authority, you take it with you, and you're just like, well, I'm worth whatever you tell me I'm worth. If I get a good grade, then I'm doing well. Like it's like this thing that just you learn how to do it for 13 years. And then you get into the workplace, and easily a lot of us carry that schoolishness, especially Black girls. To be good, you got to be like 100% good. So like by the time you're working, this idea that I can just quit, or that it's okay for me to take care of myself first, that doesn't feel like I had no experience with that theory, that I could take care of myself and it would be okay, or that I could quit a job and that I would have any sort of safety net. I was terrified. How do you actually get from a point of this is scary to I can maybe take a risk? Because that's where I think the anxiety gets most people. It's like, yeah, sure, you could quit in theory, but like how do you get less scared?
So again, like it's fear of the unknown. That's really what you just talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the first step is to start knowing, right? Is to start learning from people who you can trust, who you vibe with, who you understand, and letting them teach you financial literacy, right? So getting a mentor, right? Getting a financial coach to teach you those things, right? That's the first step. The second step is actually understanding your finances, right? Like, do you know where your money is coming from? All of it, every penny. And do you know where it's going? Every single penny. Do you have control over that? Right? And the only way that happens is through a cash flow plan, aka a budget. But I hate calling it the B word because people start having palpitations.
You call it a cash flow plan?
Cash flow plan, because again, what did I say? Money is energy, right? So I wanted to cash flow to me effortlessly. And so by calling it that, you are literally calling money to yourself. And that's money manifestation. For real, for real.
So what would you say to the people who are overspenders? Do you think that there's anxiety involved in that?
There absolutely is. So I was actually an overspender, right?
I know you said that you think your spending was emotional.
Yes.
What does that mean?
But it's almost the same thing. So emotional spenders, overspenders, there's a thought process, but there's also a feeling that you get. It's relief, right? So overspenders are the ones who call it retail therapy and things of that nature. We're going to throw out retail therapy. That's not a form of therapy.
Why is that bad?
No, because you're burying your feelings. You're not actually addressing the emotional issue or the trauma that you're experiencing. You're ignoring it, right? So by calling it that cute, oh yeah, I'm going on retail therapy, you're ignoring everything that's wrong. Address what is wrong, right? Get to the root of the problem of why you feel like I got to go spend right now.
Well, look,
and that's really what I did to get out of the 50. That was it.
Yeah. Look, we have someone with the opposite problem here.
I'm on the opposite. It's sometimes difficult. Ooh, so you are what I like to call frugal Frank. So there are spender profiles. There are spender profiles, and why oftentimes people feel that it's difficult for them to spend is because they have a fear of going without. And so that's because, you grew up in a situation where money was not flowing into the house, right? Where you had to be limited in what was spent, or you went without food sometimes, or a little bit of food, or things of that nature. That really is what it tends to stem from. And even if you are second generation, where like someone has gotten out of the poverty and they're okay, they still keep the survival mode going in their brains. And so they never really get out of survival mode.
So that's probably a lot of immigrant families and a lot of people who are coming from first generation of like coming from rags to riches kind of stuff. They're probably raising their kids, even though it looks like a middle class, comfortable situation, as if
they're still in the lower class. Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that a lot. Like people just it's having to let go of the trauma you've experienced. And again, like I said, it always comes back to addressing what is making you feel like you cannot let go of the money now.
So tell me, you have this now. Frugal Frank makes me wonder about the other profiles.
There's 7 of them.
There's 7. Well, tell me, we're not going to get into all 7, but I'm curious when you think about like people who experience a lot of fear around leaving jobs, around sort of feeling connected to, because one of the things about internalized capitalism is feeling like your work is your worth, right? Like if I'm not working for it, then I'm not as good.
Yes.
Where would, like, because this is, people don't realize financial psychology is a whole thing, right?
It's a whole thing, guys. It's real.
Where do you think that people start to get that idea that it's just sort of what I work for that makes me worth something? Like, what do you see that showing up?
So that thought process actually comes from the industrial movement, right? So we go way, way back, right? So when you know, we first came into the actual workforce, and I mean Black folks, but there's a whole bunch of other, you know, the working class, right? When we came into the Industrial Revolution, we started to take pride in what we did. If you did it very well, then you were rewarded. If you did very bad, you were discarded, you were shamed, and things of that nature. And so that carried on into modern society, because we never really addressed the matter of you are not completely connected to your work, right? So when people would say, hey, who are you? What do you do? What are you about? Who are you, right? They would say, I'm a carpenter. They wouldn't say, hey, I'm Queen Candace and I can, you know, create a mean shoe. You know what I'm saying? There was pride in that. And that's still here to this day. Like, even a lot of gas workers, like, right? Like they take pride in what they do. And they're like, I'm a gas man. You know what I'm saying? So that pride still exists. And so that's where we have to make that separation and say, you are whatever, whoever you are, Jane Doe, John Doe, all that good stuff. And you can do this amazing thing. But it doesn't mean you're Jane Doe, John Doe, the carpenter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that separation between your ability sort of innately, just you, versus you using that and working and toiling and kind of getting your money that way, that's a big difference. And there's a lot of ways to make money now. If you could, there's sort of a pandemic hustle that's starting. Black people are making more money during the pandemic than they were making before it.
Yes, because we're tapping into our gifts. We're tapping into being creative, right? Even me, like you would think, oh, finances isn't that creative. I have a whole media company now based off of coming just from my show, my talk show, Cream Academy, because I wanted to get financial literacy to the masses, right? So we're starting to think outside of the box. And it's amazing. It's honestly the greatest thing that ever happened to us was the pandemic.
Well, before we take a break and get to our tarot card pull of the day, I'm curious, outside of making sure that you educate yourself, that you have people in your community around you who can mentor you, what else do you think is there any piece of advice that we're missing for how to relieve your financial anxiety that you would want to leave folks with?
Yes. So as I have been saying, addressing your actual issue, right? So be that mental, be that emotional, be that physical, right? Like, do you actually love your body? Maybe you're trying to hide behind all of the things that you purchase because you won't address the self-hate that you have, right? So also addressing your trauma, going to people like Chantelle and saying, help me adjust my overall mindset so that it can in turn adjust my financial mindset. And then that literally is like the light bulb for your financial situation.
And do you think that it's harder for people who are masculine and consider themselves earners for the household to take risks around this kind of stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. My toughest clients have been men because they don't want to listen. Like, they're just like, I need help me. But no, I know how to do this. And so they're battling with their authority. That's what it is. Like, if I'm the head of the household, I should know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't.
Yep.
And so it's very conflicting to have that type of issue.
And
And
couples,
that's it.
we see the result of that in couples all the time, where one person, and it's interesting because a lot of women have financial and business skills, and accepting the influence of a partner. When they actually do studies on this is actually kind of a funny thing. The thing that makes most marriages work is that the husband accepts the wife's influence if it's like a heteronormative marriage. And that's not because women shouldn't accept their husband's influence. It's because almost always there is some acceptance of it. Yeah. But what makes a difference most of the time in the reality is, does he accept it back? And that kind of influence around money and knowledge, especially, you know, if it's certain folks like Caribbean folks and things like that, it could be really, really, really tough to accept influence from people who you don't think you should learn from. You don't want to hear what you think you already know.
Definitely. Financial psychology is huge, right? So it's not just how we feel on a day-to-day, it's also family. And then if you get a little further, it's also cultural. And then if you get a little further, it's what society dictates you should feel about or think about money. So it's very layered. And so you have to peel back all of them in order to unlock your cash flow.
Yeah. And I mean, I even know people who are scared to make too much money because they don't want to out earn partners or things like that. And I mean, there's so many layers to it. That's why I'm just really glad that we got to, this is just like the surface of it. But, you know, when we get back, I'm going to try to get a takeaway from the ancestors on how to do this. But we're going to take a little break just so that we can plug the Unplugged retreat, which is coming up on April 25th. And I am so excited because I'm hosting it with my girl, Jay Rose, who also, you can look it up right now and buy it, the Writer's Unblocked Journal. She's got it out now. So take a look. Okay, folks. Hello. We are back. And so, you know, we could ask the same question, which was the show question, which is how do folks relieve financial anxiety? Or you could ask the cards a specific question since you're here with me, and I can pull one just for you. What would you rather do?
I mean, we could pull it for the people.
Okay. Let me plug my deck. All right, the Afro Goddess Tarot Arcanas deck. This is by the talented and African-American artist, Andrea Furtick. You can find her on Instagram. You can find her on Etsy. She's selling them. Anyhow, let's get it popping and try to figure out what message the ancestors have for us about money today. It's a big topic, and we as a people have a complicated history, so... The Seven of Wands. And so wands are usually battle cards, right? So this is appropriate because a lot of times it talks about struggles. So let's go to our description of what it is that the lesson is here, which is it's about challenge and perseverance. So this goddess is accomplished and her flowering wands indicate that she is the one whom holds success. However, surrounding her are 6 wands of competitors. The struggle to maintain the top position is imminent, and this goddess must watch her own back and stand her own ground with courage. The 7 of Wands can often indicate a period of struggle after initial satisfaction, right? So even if you get what you want, it's still going to be struggles. You may have thought that you secured something, but now others want what you have.
All the time.
Don't compromise. You must hold your ground, take a stand and defend your position, and indeed have strength and determination to do so. So this is a card about standing your ground, you, making sure that you take care of yourself and put yourself first, even when people are questioning you, right? You got to stand firm in what it is that you're fighting for and what it is that you're working for. And so if nothing else, just make sure that you remember money is a tool. Money is energy.
Yes.
So that you can let it flow to you abundantly. And hopefully what we can also avoid doing is making any sort of dips or challenges with our finances become defining of who we are. Because obviously things come and they ebb and they flow, but you have more control the more you know. Everything is a learning opportunity here. So just stay on your own side. Try to keep learning so you can do better.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much. Can you tell the people where they can find you after this is over, in case they want to get them a blueprint, in case they want to watch some Queen Blueprint TV? Where can they find you at?
Absolutely. So you guys, I do one-on-one financial accountability. This will be my last year doing it, so catch me while that's still available. And I also have a money management boot camp in April, so plug into that, because I'll teach you how I went from $50K in debt to owning my first home at the age 26. So you can catch me at the Queen Blueprint on Facebook, on Instagram. And you can also visit my website at www.thequeenblueprint.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And hopefully everybody got something out of this episode, whether it's just a little bit of info about how we got so stressed in the first place from the Industrial Revolution, or whether it's some tips on how to get yourself out of a stuck place in terms of feeling like you don't know what to do. Get yourself some knowledge. Relieve your anxiety. And we will catch you next time on Thursday, same place, same time, on People Always Ask. You can follow us and you can do all the good stuff. Subscribe now so that we can catch every episode together, and you can ask questions live. See you next time. Bye.
Just coming when you get up or get out or get off. And I'll hit you when I get down and get in and get on. Just coming when you get up or get out or get off. And I hit you when I get down and get in and get on. Baby, you could just call me when you get up or get out or get off. And I hit you when I get down and get in and get on.